Jeffery Martin is an academic that's been doing research on enlightenment for over a decade, I think now, and full time. This is his whole program, is to study what is it that is enlightenment. What is enlightenment? So he does scientific research on this, interviewing people that are awake, and has a course called the Finder's Course, where he helps people wake up through the different techniques and things that he's learned in his studies on awakened consciousness. And in this time, in over a decade, he's coined this phrase, this scientific phrase for enlightened consciousness, which is persistent non-symbolic experience. PNE for short. Persistent non-symbolic experience. And it's not a bad way of phrasing this. Well, he spent a decade researching this full time, so he should have come up with something. And he has. And this idea of non-symbolic, we live when we're the dream, the illusion that we live in before we wake up is built with symbols. Language is symbols. Images that we use to describe things are symbols. So awakened consciousness is non-symbolic. We've transcended symbols and live in a world free of symbols. They're symbols, they're still symbols, but symbols to me are a tool now. I no longer believe them as reality because I experience reality directly, non-symbolically, without the symbols in the way, clouding it up, filtering a veil over life. I experience life as it is. And it's non-symbolic. So there's nothing that I can say about it. It's non-symbolic. If I said something, I would just be putting symbols back onto reality. And of course I do use words. I do use symbols, as we all do. This is how we communicate. Symbols are a wonderful tool for communicating, but they're not life. If you see a picture of a dog, it's not a dog. It's a symbol of a dog. It's not a dog itself. You understand this. If you see a picture of a dog, it is not the dog itself. It can remind you of the dog in a limited way, but as it reminds you of the dog, you're using your memory of the dog, and your memory of the dog is also symbols. So the dog itself is something real, not a symbol, not the word dog, not any symbol, not a picture of a dog, but the actual dog. And the actual dog is more than anything that we can think about the dog, isn't it? It's more than anything that we can think about the dog. It's non-symbolic. Reality is non-symbolic. Life is non-symbolic. You are non-symbolic. You're real. You're not a symbol of you. And yet most of us live our life with the experience, with the experience of a symbol of who we are, of who our parents told us we were, and teachers told us we were, and our friends tell us we were, and society tells us who we are. And we believe that symbol, or those groups of symbols, as who we are. But we're not a symbol. We're real. The limited self, separate self, is a symbol, not reality. So we wake up beyond symbols. It's quite simple, really. I mean, it isn't simple to do because we've been conditioned, brainwashed, programmed to believe in symbols. And our whole society is based on symbols. And we're constantly being reinforced to believe symbols and not the reality itself. Now, as artists, we also work in symbols, but in a different way, because we try and express something true in the symbols that we create, right? It's not enough just to have a symbol of something that looks like something and say, that's good enough. Well, it's not good enough for an artist. You know, when photography came in, after photography was invented and started to be widely used, painters didn't just create symbols. They didn't before. They wanted to express something more, something deeper than just the superficial image of the symbol of whatever they were showing. And abstract expressionist painting came in, where the painting itself was enough. It wasn't a symbol of anything. The painting itself was the art. The painting itself was the art. And that was a way of having transcending symbols, transcending the old symbols of just representing something and having something look like what it was. It wasn't enough. The art itself became a new symbol of what? Of the art itself, a symbol of itself. So there was an element of truth in this, and beauty. I love abstract expressionist art. It's a sort of a transitional phase for me to go into the Shodo and Zenga paintings that I do, the Enlightenment paintings. Now, a Zen circle, you can see over there, right behind me, there's a Zen circle. And a Zen circle is not just a symbol of a circle. It's much more than that. It's much more than that. It's an expression of the artist's state of consciousness at the moment that it's painted. In that very moment, the state of consciousness of the artist. And if the state of consciousness of the artist is free, is empty, is open, then it's actually an expression of the universe. Not just the artist, not just an individual symbol, a limited self-centered, impression of the artist, but the artist is free of that. Free of this, the symbol of an artist, free of the symbol of him or herself. And the whole universe is available. The whole universe is there. The whole universe is painting. I always loved this quote from Jackson Pollock when he was painting his abstract drip paintings. And a critic had asked him, do you ever paint nature? And his response was, I am nature painting. And that's a very Zen answer. It's a wonderful answer. I am nature painting. So when your mind is free, when your mind is not clouded with symbols of who you are, of the person, an artist can get quite egotistical. This person can be I'm an important artist. Look, I have all these critics. I'm very successful, or whatever you think of yourself, this self-centered symbol. What you think of yourself is a symbol. Any thought of a self is a symbol. But to be free of that symbol, to transcend that symbol, then something else is here. Then it's nature painting. Then it's the entire universe painting. Because there is no longer an artist. There is no longer a symbol of a person. There's just the totality. It's non-symbolic. And when non-symbolic paints, the painting is also non-symbolic. It transcends symbols and something more is there, just as it is in that Zen circle painting. Over here, sorry, the way I'm pointing, is this is part of a painting that you can see of truth. It's a Shodo painting. This is done in the grass style of calligraphy, of Zen calligraphy, of Shodo, and it's a representation of truth. But it's not just, in the Shodo style, it's more abstract. It's a more abstract style. So it's not just trying to say truth as just the symbol or the word truth, but to actually give some of the feeling of truth, some of the expression of truth. And in this way, it's beautiful, it's very fluid and flowing, but what's more is it can't be grasped. It's showing that truth is something that can't be put in a box. It can't be confined. It can't be, a symbol cannot be made of it. And there's a symbol of it, but the symbol is trying to express that it can't be boxed into a symbol, that there's more there in truth. Just as there is in enlightenment and truth and reality in a tree and a dog. There's more there than than a symbol of it, more there than what you think of it. Truth is non-symbolic. You are non-symbolic. Life is non-symbolic. And so the enlightened state of consciousness is non-symbolic. It transcends symbols. Symbols become a tool that we can use, but they're no longer believed as reality because we experience reality directly. And when we experience reality directly, we don't want to go back to experiencing it through symbols, through a dream, through illusion. It's far too limited. It's far, far too limited. We don't want to take this wonderful experience of reality and squeeze it in to some tiny little limited symbol. It's too confining and it's not real. So persistent non-symbolic experience means persistent means we stay in that state of beyond symbols. And in the process of getting there, we flip back and forth, don't we? Many people have had this experience. We have an experience of opening, of non-symbolic experience of complete freedom and this absolute bliss and unconditional love, and it's wonderful. And then we get pulled back into symbols again, into believing symbols, the symbol of me in my life, the symbol of the world as a symbol, as what I think it is, as what people have taught me it is, and what others agree it is. Those are all symbols. And of course, because we're in society, we keep getting pulled back into this symbolic experience of the world. And we lose the freedom to see the world as it really is, beyond all symbols. And so after a while, we go back and forth with this, and then eventually it becomes persistent, and we stay in a non-symbolic state while using symbols, but not being used by them anymore, not falling into the dream of a symbolic reality, the dream of a symbolic world, the dream of a symbolic me. This practice of emptiness, I think, is useful, because if we understand that emptiness is empty of all symbols, empty of every symbol, it can help us, as a practice, it can help us strip away these layers of symbols that we have that are in the way of experiencing the world, ourself and everything else. We can become free of that, which is what we call a mind that's empty. Empty, clear, like space. No symbols, just seeing what is. And no need to put a symbol on it. No need to describe it. No need to say, what's the meaning of this? How can I understand this? No need to understand it. That it simply is what it is, and that's enough, and that's infinite. And that's more than the mind can ever comprehend. When I'm talking about the mind here, I'm talking about the mind of symbols, the mind of thoughts, not the free mind that's open and infinite. That's the non-symbolic mind. That's our natural state. That's our true self.